This is Gavin McLeod, your captain speaking. You are listening to Beats and Eats.
Live from the virtual lounge in cyberspace, it's Beats and Eats. A happy hour for the mind, featuring the best in conversation and pop culture. Food, music, movies, comedy, you name it. And you'll never know who will be dropping by to pay us a visit. Now, here are your hosts, Ty Ray and Nick Gelso.
The virtual lounge is open. It's Ty Ray, Nick Gelso, and it is Beats and Eats. And Nick, it's a movie edition of Beats and Eats. You and I have not talked, film in a while. What is the last movie that you went out to see? Curious.
Star Wars.
Oh, the Rogue One.
Rogue One I saw twice. God, it was good.
I have not seen that yet.
Oh, you'll like it.
Of course, it took me a year to see.
I
Star
suggest
Wars,
you don't wait that long for this one. You like to call Star Wars. I take offense to it. I'm adverse to you calling Star Wars good popcorn films, which basically they are. But this one is really dark and violent and just it's fucking awesome. You have to go see it. Right.
Almost like what? Like not Return of the Jedi.
Darker.
That's the popcorn film with the Wookiees.
No, darker than not Return of the Jedi. Darker than Empire Strikes Back.
Right. That's my understanding. It's supposed to be terrific, and I will get around to doing it. This has been, I guess, last year was the year, once again, it seems like of the indie film, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not quite, but I mean, we had films like Manchester by the Sea that collected many award nominations, and of course La La Land, which who would have thought, Nick, about a musical, 14 nominations.
It dominated the Golden Globes, right? It was brutal.
Ryan Gosling, Emma Stone. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I didn't watch it. I won't. I don't really like musicals. I did like the closest you could get me to liking a musical is Jersey Boys. I like Jersey Boys. I thought the music was great, and I thought it was just enough mix of music and spoken word. If it's all music, forget it.
You forget it.
Forget it. I have no patience for it.
I just, as much as I like Ryan Gosling, I just don't know if I can take him
in a musical, right?
I know, but I hear it's terrific, right? Everybody
says it. Everybody is saying that. Yeah.
I think the last film I saw, Nick, and trying to remember. Jackie, I think, which was
you saw Jackie. That's right. Yeah.
I really enjoyed that, and Natalie Portman, but she didn't win the Golden Globe, so it'll be interesting to see if she wins the Oscar.
Right. It's a good time of year if you're a movie fan with all the award season, and of course with not that it's a good thing, but I'm sure the Mary Tyler Moore tribute will be absolutely heartbreaking in the Oscars.
Well, thank you for bringing her up because we lost another great one. Our year is off to another tragic start. I had no idea she was ill. None whatsoever.
I knew she had diabetes, and I knew she was an alcoholic, or at one time was, but I didn't know she was ill. I think she died kind of abruptly.
Yeah. So I was rather shocked when I saw it come down, and of course we instantly put it in the Beats and Eats discussion group on Facebook, and what a great actress. What a mold breaker. Of course, she played Dick Van Dyke's wife in the Dick Van Dyke Show. That's the one
I think people, or at least my generation, forgets that one. We all know the Mary Tyler Moore Show, of course. But I think people forget that she was such a household name in the early 60s with Dick Van Dyke. That's like, right around the time of Lucille Ball. Maybe Lucille Ball's a little ahead of her. Or Leave It to Beaver, but it's in probably that second wave of shows right after that family friendly Leave It to Beaver type television, which Dick Van Dyke was family friendly too.
Oh, funny stuff.
Yeah.
Of course, Dick Van Dyke.
Physical humor.
The physical humor was great, and then of course she completely broke the mold with the Mary Tyler Moore Show, which tugs at my heart because it took place in a television newsroom.
Right. Of course.
What a cast.
Well, what a cast.
Goodness. Cloris Leachman, Ted Knight,
Betty White.
Eisner, a guest on this show, Gavin McLeod, we forget.
Yep, he was on Morning Joe.
Mary Tyler Moore Show.
Betty White.
Yeah, just Betty White. Thanks for bringing her up. Such great, iconic television, Mary Tyler Moore, and she will be missed. And then there was a great film she was in that is from the early 80s, and I haven't seen it in a long time, but she was nominated for an Oscar called Ordinary People.
Yeah, Ordinary People. Right. I saw that when I was a kid. Yep.
Directed by Robert Redford, and she really broke out of her nice girl mode in that film, too, because she kind of played, for lack of a better word, a kind of a cold-hearted bitch in that film.
And she was good with it.
She was the mother.
She was good. Yeah,
absolutely.
she was good.
I just remember those huge arguments between her and Donald Sutherland over their suicidal son, Timothy Hutton. That may be worth going back to watch in days ahead. Because I remember that film being very, very powerful. But Mary Tyler Moore gone. And then last night, we had another death. The gentleman who played Mannix, Ted Connors.
Oh, I did not know Ted Connors died.
Yeah. Mike Connors, rather. Not Mike Connors.
Ted Connors. Wait a minute. Isn't Ted Connors... Or Chuck Connors is the rifleman.
Right. Sorry. But yeah, Mike Connors, the man who played Mannix. And it's funny you brought up Lucille Ball because, believe it or not, Desilu Productions produced Mannix. Who would have thought?
And Star Trek.
At Star Trek. These are the things you don't know. You think of Lucille Ball as just being this great comic. Well, hell no. I mean, her production company was a powerhouse.
Yeah.
An absolute powerhouse to produce such, as we like to say, iconic TV. And no doubt Mannix was part of that.
Sure.
So before we get things started, today we're going to have our guest, G.J. Echterncamp, and he is directing the craziest new movie, Nick, I think that it's fair to say we have seen in a long time. Death Race 2050, of course, it's a takeoff on the 70s film Death Race 2000, where you get points. It's about a sporting event where you get points for running over people. It is absolutely nuts.
Yeah, we haven't taken a break, Ty, but I think we've taken a break from each other because we've not been on the air together very often in the new year. And this is one of the things I miss about being on air to you, is being not forced, but required to watch some movies I probably wouldn't otherwise watch because of a guest coming up. And in this one, though, it's kind of silly. I'm glad I watched it.
It's crazy. It's insane. It's getting savaged on the internet.
Killed.
It's getting killed. And I can't wait to talk.
And that makes it perfect. That makes it perfect for Beats and Eats.
No, it does. It is a crazy film. It's Death Race 2050. It's free right now, so if you have Netflix, you might want to check it out. It's produced by the legendary Roger Corman, who's done all sorts of films over the years. He's a legend in Hollywood, and GJ was hired by him to do this film. It is nuts. Please watch this film sober. That's all I'll say.
Yes, most definitely.
Or maybe you want to watch it on drugs, because it's that nuts as well. But here's the funny thing about GJ, Nick, is that GJ directed this very critically acclaimed film called Frank and Cindy. And Frank and Cindy is a movie about a documentary he shot about his mom and his stepdad. And his stepdad, this is so funny, it's right in my wheelhouse. His stepdad played in a 80s band, a one-hit wonder called Oxo, who put out a top 10 song called Whirly Girl. They were on American Bandstand. The movie is about his mom and his stepdad. His stepdad basically is a one-hit wonder who gets fat, lazy, etc. And GJ did a movie on this with Rene Russo and Oliver Platt, and it was critically acclaimed at all the film festivals. So he did that movie, was critically acclaimed for that, and now is doing Death Race 2050.
Yeah, boy, that's like, that'll give you a whiplash.
Yeah, it just does it. It's like going to make, I guess you're going to make Gandhi, then a slasher film.
Gandhi.
I just don't understand it. So I can't wait to talk to GJ about how in the world he went from point A to point B, and it's going to be early for GJ. He's in Southern California. So as we record this,
I hope the Keurig is turned on.
Yeah. We usually have our guests. Well, Nick, you're on the East Coast. I don't think that's any secret to our listeners. But most of our guests come from the East Coast, or we also record later in the day, which is not the case today.
No.
Actually, for me, I've had way too much coffee, as you can tell.
I can tell. My God. How long have you been up?
I've been up for about an hour. So,
hey Ty, why don't I talk? Being we have a second here, why don't I tell you a little bit about Blue Apron?
Please do. It's great.
Our interview today is powered by Blue Apron. Blue Apron is the #1 fresh ingredient and recipe delivery service in the country. Blue Apron's mission is to make incredible home cooking accessible to everyone. Because you're a listener to Beats and Eats, you get 3 free meals and free shipping by going to blueapron.com/Beats and Eats. And we really, really hope that you will, if you've been tempted to try Blue Apron because they're advertising everywhere, please take this opportunity to do so and use our promo code because, that gives us credit and keeps the lights on here. So blueapron.com/Beats and Eats. And there you get 3 free meals and free shipping. And Ty, Blue Apron is making a chef out of you.
It is. I'm using it almost daily. So I have a question to ask you because I've been introduced to new foods from Blue Apron. I love the product. I'm not saying that because they're a sponsor of ours, but I had spicy salmon the other night. Is it freekeh? Is that how you pronounce it?
Spell it.
F-R-K-E-H. It's like a rice.
F-R-E. Spell it?
F-R-E-K-E-H. It's like a rice.
F-R-E-A-K.
Spicy salmon and freekeh. F-R-E-K.
I think that you are pronouncing that correctly.
I think so.
It's like a flour. I think it's a durum of sorts.
Yeah, and it's great. It's great. I had it with my spicy salmon the other night. Pretty psyched, Nick. This week, on the way, I just got notification to my phone. That's the other thing. It's almost like Christmas Day when your Blue Apron box arrives.
Isn't it the best?
It's great because you never know sometimes what you're getting. I'm getting beef tacos and radish salsa.
I did it. Been there.
That
amazing.
Sounds so good.
Really, 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 really good. Yeah, you will definitely enjoy. That's right up your alley, being tacos too.
Oh, we've got enchiladas coming to us. So Blue Apron, you've got to try it.
Yeah.
I swear by it, Nick. You see me. I posted on Instagram. I posted on Facebook.
Yep.
The reaction has been tremendous. People want to know, where did you get that? And I tell them.
You know what's fun? It's fun to me that when I'm on a Friday evening, in particular, it seems Fridays, I'll be coming home after a long day. And yes, I'm excited to see Blue Apron on my front step because I don't have to go to the grocery store. I know I could rely on what's in the box. But it's also pretty cool to see. I live in a housing development, and I see all my neighbors with Blue Apron boxes. So
isn't that nuts?
Yeah, it's the way people are shopping today. It is, and I think it's holding up. It's doing well because the ingredients are fresh and the proteins are coming to you stable. They're still frozen. They're in great condition. So Blue Apron is a better way to cook. Check them out. blueapron.com/Beats and Eats. You hear Ty and I raving about it. You'll rave about it too. 3 free meals, free shipping. Ty, shall we go to our guest?
Let's do it.
Let's do it to it.
Beats and Eats will return after this word from our sponsor. Hey guys, we got one? When did that happen?
On the show. So I'm sure you get asked this all the time, GJ, which is we watch Death Race 2015. Of course, I'm a huge fan of Frank and Cindy. How did you get from point A to point B here?
Really?
It's a pretty weird transition from Frank and Cindy to Death Race for sure. So wait, you saw the remake, right? Not the original doc, or both? Of Frank and Cindy?
I saw the most recent one with Rene Russo and Oliver Platt.
Well, it all comes together in a very strange way. Basically, my mother, the Rene Russo Oliver Platt one is based on an actual documentary that I did about Frank and Cindy, my parents. My mother had always had so much guilt about, in her mind, having been a bad mom and not having been there for me and being an alcoholic, that she was saying during the doc and in the Rene Russo version as well, she keeps saying, I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna get a job in show business. I'm gonna hook you up. I'm gonna help you get your foot in the door. And she ended up getting a job working for Roger Corman. And she didn't realize who he was at the time. She tells me I'm, answering phones for this company called New Horizons. And I was like, oh, well, that's cool, and I never really was counting on her to get my foot in the door. At that point, I'd already done a lot of stuff, and I was kind of, slowly doing the festivals and whatever. And then months later, she says, "Well, have you heard of this guy named Roger Corman? I guess he's somebody. I mean, people are saying he's a legend or something."
Oh my
so
God.
she worked there long enough, and I started coming in the office and reading scripts for him and doing, things around the office. And he eventually gave me an assignment to make a film predominantly using stock footage of 80s Vietnam movies he had made. And so I kind of took on this experimental project, which was to do, shoot 7 days worth of new footage and intercut it with action movie footage he had done. So it was like helicopters exploding and trains blowing up and things like that. So I made this dumb little movie for him, and it ended up going to Sundance, first ever Corman film to go to Sundance. And so I did that sort of trash spectacle movie that went to Sundance, and I did the Rene Russo movie, which was more of a serious dramedy. And then Roger calls me up and says, "Do you want to do Death Race, remake of Death Race 2000?" And I thought, well, fuck yeah.
Sure. Why not?
So it was two different parallels. On one hand, I was making, documentaries, kind of, serious films, and then on the other hand, I was working for Roger making B-movie type stuff. I don't know what. Yeah, it's a weird story.
No, it's a very weird story. And Nick and I, we were just discussing the parallels between Malcolm McDowell's chairman character in Death Race 2050 and Donald Trump. Is that by accident?
Yeah. It's not totally by accident. I mean, when we wrote the script, it was a while ago. It was before the primaries. And Trump was kind of around. He was rabble rousing and kind of on the fringes, kind of stirring it up. But I don't think anybody at the time thought he was going to become the nominee or become president. So we decided to be kind of funny at the time to say, well, what if he was sort of a Trump-like character? And we'd give him the Trump hair and we'd call him the chairman. But at the same time, we didn't want to make him a Trump caricature because I thought that might seem really dated. I mean, if we had some guy being tremendous, I felt like when history forgot who he was, which is what we thought was going to happen, everyone would be like, what's up with that impression of the person you don't remember? So we kind of did it a little Trumpy because we thought that'd be funny, but no, we didn't go full Trump either because we didn't actually think he'd ever be president in a million years,
Oh, truth is stranger than fiction, my friends.
Yeah. Well, originally, to be honest, I wanted it to be Nicolas Cage as Donald Trump, which I thought would be the greatest,
really?
the greatest B-movie moment of all time.
Did you offer it to him? Did he pass on it?
Yeah, he doesn't do bit parts. He doesn't do cameos.
Oh, is that right?
He does.
He should start.
Yeah, he does. He's a leading man,
Oh, yes, that's right. I forgot his latest work, classics. Anyway,
Right.
Corporations of America. Where did you come up with that?
That may or may not have been me or Roger Corman's idea. He had kind of a big list of ideas going into it. Tammy the Terrorist was his idea. He had a bunch of sort of bullet points that he wanted me to incorporate into the outline or into the treatment that I did the first time around. And I think, I think that's just sort of, calling it the United Corporations of America for me is kind of satire 101. It's not exactly a brilliant, subtle satire.
Right.
I mean, the idea,
Right.
The idea of a corporate-run America has been around for a long time, but I just felt like in the tone of Death Race and in the sort of the world we were putting out there, there was going to be some broader strokes and some more subtle things. And I thought, screw it, let's just make it the United Corporations of America so everyone knows kind of the level we're starting with here. That's your introduction to the world of Death Race. That's where the satire sort of began. But yeah, I don't. Go ahead.
No. Did you always know it was going to go to Netflix so people could just see it for not free because you pay for Netflix, but inexpensively?
Yeah, the people so when Roger had the idea to remake it, he approached Universal because they were the ones who had the rights to those Jason Statham Death Races, the serious ones, and they were doing. After the Jason Statham Death Race in the 2000s, they were doing spin-offs or sequels of that, and they have a particular wing, or a particular subdivision called Universal 1440, and they kind of do straight-to-video franchise movies. So they've got like Child's Play 7 and Tremors 8 and things like that. And so, you know, he approached them, and they were like, yeah, let's do another Death Race. Let's do it Corman style. But sort of going into it, the business model is already set. They already know, yeah, we're going to go Amazon, iTunes, Netflix, foreign television, boom, 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 boom. It's not really, there's not really a kind of it's sort of pre-sold and pre-ready, and yeah, everyone kind of knows where it's going. It's not like it was ever going to be a theatrical movie. And I certainly wouldn't have wanted it to be, because that would have seemed very confusing for most people. You know? Right.
GJ, I want you to know you just said serious Death Race was stated. You just said that.
Yeah.
Serious
well, it's a non-comedic, or not intentionally comedic.
Yeah, not intentional. There you go, my friend.
Not intentionally comedic. Yeah.
So what's
I mean, it
reaction?
really,
Go ahead.
Oh, and I was just saying, it really comes down to like, there's different forms of comedic, and there's a sliding scale, and that's what's so tricky about making a kind of a throwback 70s type cult movie. You've got like, takes itself really seriously, but is totally sucky and funny because it doesn't realize it sucks, and then you've got something at the bottom, which is like Sharknado, where you've got a type of movie that says like, oh, we're going to try to be as awful as possible. Isn't that hilarious? And there's something, you know, what we were trying to find, which was to know it was campy, but to actually sort of try at the same time to do the best we could and have the best actors and try to make it actually funny and not, oh, this dialogue is so crappy, that's funny. But it's a weird thing that doesn't really exist anymore, is that sort of cult sensibility where you're not just throwing it in the garbage. You're still kind of aiming for something, but there's times where it has to be garbage because that's all you got.
So it's the death. Are we looking at the death of the B movie, GJ?
You know, it's a tough call. You know, the good thing is I think so far that, you know, the critics who watched this online were responded to it because of, you know, the original. But is there a market for true B movies, sort of ambitious B movies with limited resources that don't, you know, aren't just pure action, pure horror, or just total camp? It is a tough niche. I want it to come back, but I wouldn't say it exists in abundance right now. But who's to say that it might not be a thing that, you know, comes back, or maybe there's a niche for it. I don't want to say anything's dead ever. People are like, is heavy metal dead? I'm like, I don't know. Go to Norway and find there.
So you got to have one great story, my friend, making this film, which is just a mind, you know what. You have to have one great story making this, because I know you're on a limited budget and with limited time. So something crazy had to happen while you were on set, I bet.
I mean, a lot of crazy things happened. I mean, you know, there was a lot of, you know, some stories are more interesting than others. I mean, one of the cars exploded. The Minerva car, about a week into shooting, just caught on fire and burnt to a crisp within seconds. Just completely went up in flames. And they come back from, the second unit comes back from shooting, and they're all looking sad. I'm like, oh, what's going on? And they just show me this video of the car burning to the ground. So I had to rewrite, you know, I had to rework the entire script around the fact that we no longer had Minerva's car. But that wasn't even that interesting. That was just kind of a day in the life. To be honest, probably one of the more tragic things that happened is we had to recast one of the main roles. You know, the Dr. Creamer role, the one who has like sex with their car. So this was Roger's idea. He was like,
of course,
the proxy in the self-driving car should have sex with her car.
And the issue that I was having was in Peru, it was actually really quite taboo. We shot in Lima. It was really quite taboo to do, you know, sexual things, and it was almost impossible to get the topless girls that we were getting. Like, it was really tricky. And so at some point we had cast a woman to play Creamer, and, you know, she was really good, and we shot like all of her scenes. And then the day before the part where she was supposed to, like, you know, all she had to do was sit in the seat and moan, right? All she had to do was go, She was like, I cannot do this. I will bring shame upon my family. I will bring shame upon myself. You don't understand what the culture's like here. It's going to be in the papers. Everyone's going to disown me. I cannot do this. And she's like, you have to rewrite it. And I was like, Roger's already mad about how hard it is to get nudity down here. I don't think he's going to compromise about this car sex thing. And she was like, I can't do it. So we had to, literally, I took the makeup girl, and I was like, you're now our new Dr. Creamer, and we have to reshoot all of your scenes. Are you willing to pretend to have sex with the car? And the makeup girl was German, and she didn't care. And she was like, yeah, I'll do it.
Things that didn't happen on the set of Frank and Cindy.
No. No. I mean, look, the thing is that's the thing. That's the thing that's odd about this kind of movie we talk about in B movies is that your average B movie nowadays sort of focuses on the one thing it can do right. If it's an action movie, like one of the other death race movies, it's going to be like, we're going to have racing. If it's a horror movie, we're going to have gore. But this kind of movie, it's like, well, we're going to try to do a dystopian future thing. So you're spending your money on costumes, you're spending your money on production design, you're spending your money on all this stuff, and then you still have to do the action. So you're spreading it around in a much more ambitious way. And so, yeah, things don't happen constantly. Things go wrong, and you kind of roll with it, and you try to hope that you could pull it off because the audience is in on the joke. I even consider just changing the actress. All of a sudden, different actress. You're like, can they roll with that? I don't know.
Anything is possible.
Yeah.
Anything. So, GJ, what's next for you? You've done a great body of work here. I mean, it looks like you've done it all, like I said, from the very serious, funny film in Frank and Cindy to this action flick. Where do you go next?
Well, I guess, I think a lot of people, they do one thing, and they keep doing that one thing until it kind of gets better and better and better and better. I had a friend who made a whole career doing puppet shows about pirates and on New York, and he did that so long. Now he's like a writer for Orange Is the New Black. How does that happen?
Right.
But I think my path so far is just completely expanding my skill set by trying something new each time, or at least that's how it seems going. So the next thing I'm doing is kind of just a straight up low budget action movie. It's not a comedy. It's sort of like I'm trying to add some RoboCop-esque sort of, moments of satire to it, but it's just like a real action movie. Real cars, real racing, real stunts, things exploding, things crashing into buildings. That's sort of the next one I'm doing, and I think it's just like everything up until this point. I can only hope that, I keep getting better at stuff. My goal would be to do a movie like this and have somebody go, maybe you should do the next Jurassic Park.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Why not?
How realistic is that? Does that happen?
No, man. The guy who did the last Jurassic Park was some guy who made an indie film that was for Sundance. Did you know about that?
Right.
Yeah. On a more serious question, GJ, is streaming actually offering up more opportunities for young directors?
No, I wouldn't say so.
No, not at all.
Well, it's kind of, if you look at it in the short term and the long term, I think there was a window. There was a window where, Netflix would go to Sundance and they would, shell out all this money for independent films. But then they started to move to kind of more or less making their own stuff, and they're not really doing that anymore. And, you get a film on Netflix, if it's not like Universal, say, if it's not Universal who's got all of their, like Death Race, they've got all of their avenues. They're distributing it internationally, and so they're going to make their money back. But for your average film that, like a Frank and Cindy type film, sort of more of an indie budget, they're not paying that much. People are losing money on movies like that. And, there's a sense of prestige where they'll keep making these sort of indie darling movies that only end up getting shoved on Netflix. But, people keep losing money doing that. There's only so many times someone can kickstart a movie or get their uncle to give them money for a movie. But at the end of the day, if you're going straight to streaming and you're not Universal with international distribution, you're losing most of your budget. And there's only so long people are going to keep doing that, and it's like, it goes to Netflix and then no one markets it. No one spends money, there's no big push of awareness or PR, for the movie that's floating around on Netflix like Frank and Cindy, and you kind of just hope, so when you said you saw it, I was like, oh, really? Did it recommend it to you?
It's
really
great.
All you're counting on.
I mean, think about it. You've got Russo, you've got Oliver Platt, Mark Maron is even in the film.
Yeah.
It's a great film. And one thing before we let you go, how sick are you of Whirly Girl?
One would say I'm sick of my parents in every aspect at this point. With everything about talking about them.
I'm sure you are. The only reason I say that, GJ, is because as a child of the 80s in high school, of course, I heard Whirly Girl, and it was one of those songs you just couldn't get out of your head in 1983. And prior to this interview, I was looking it up, and my God, your stepdad was on American Bandstand and Solid Gold.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't realize that. It was everywhere.
Yeah. It's funny. It's one of those songs that, it was a big hit at the time, hit enough. They did all, they had music videos and they did TV shows, but sort of for the most part, time forgot it. And that's kind of the funny thing is like when I was first doing the documentary and then the remake, my pitch was, oh yeah, my stepdad was in a one-hit wonder band in the 80s. They'd be like, oh my God, what song? Whirly Girl. I was like, I don't know that one. Had he been in like Kaja Gugu or, something, I probably maybe would have gotten more press. Whirly Girl, 1 out of 20 people is like, oh yeah, Whirly Girl.
Well, Nick and I went on an 80s cruise, and there were one-hit wonders, so your dad would have fit right in, let me tell you.
Yeah, left and right, yep.
Yeah, left and right. Anyway, GJ, it's been a blast. Where can we find your work before we let you go?
Well, I mean, I have, my old website, my old ancient website that I have from like 2003 is bionicfilms.com, and all that is at this point is sort of a placeholder for everything I've done and basically where to go to see it. So, anyone who's curious to see sort of other things I've done, you can go to my website and it'll point you in the right direction. So, bionicfilms.com.
Okay. Are you on Twitter?
Yeah.
Are you on Twitter at all?
My name, I'm on Twitter. My name, GJ Echterncamp. It's at GJ Echterncamp. Yeah. Just kind of getting into the Twitter thing, sort of new for me.
Good deal. Best of luck, my friend.
Yeah.
Thanks for getting up so early and being on Beats and Eats. Appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
All right. GJ Echterncamp. Bye. Take care.
There he goes.
Death Race 2050 streaming on Netflix now. And I love how self-deprecating about the whole.
Oh, man. Funny, right?
Funny guy. Talented. If you haven't seen Frank and Cindy, I highly recommend it. Great drama and comedy with Rene Russo and Oliver Platt. Really about his parents. That's what it's about. It's about his parents, his stepmom and his mom and his stepdad. His dad was a member of a one-hit wonder 80s band, Nick. I'm not kidding.
That's tremendous. I told you that my bartender at my restaurant was he's since passed away, but he was in the band Cinch. Do you remember them?
I do not. I'm going to look them up. Are they on Wikipedia?
Oh, I'm sure they are. Do you remember the song, Where Are You Now? Wondering where I am. Yes. That's them. He was my bartender.
So he went from being a rock star to...
Oh, he went from he was a guitar player, but he went from being in the studio at the Playboy Mansion, everywhere you could imagine partying with just about anybody. They sang backup on a ton of name brand bands, and he ended up getting out of it and bartending, and he was a tremendous bartender. Everybody loved him. I miss him dearly.
I think that there's this myth that these performers, these bands, have made thousands and thousands.
Oh, he did, though, but he would be the first to have admitted that he blew a ton. Yeah.
A lot of broke musicians out there, no doubt about it.
No question. But look at MC Hammer.
Yeah. Actually, I saw him like on an infomercial or something the other day. He came out of the chimney. Man. I'm not kidding.
Oh, man.
Oh, I know what it was for. I don't know the brand. It's funny you mentioned him. He like pops out of the chimney. I think a woman was like nailing like Christmas stockings to the chimney, and she couldn't.
Oh my God! Imagine that waking up Christmas morning and seeing MC Hammer climbing out of your fireplace with those jam knickers on.
Yeah.
Remember those?
Oh, absolutely. His head.
That'd be like that'd be the worst. You always have that one person that either calls, texts, or emails before you have your first cup of coffee of the day. And being on the West Coast, you must get it all the time. Oh, yes. MC Hammer on Christmas morning doing the "You Can't Touch This" dance out of your fireplace before you have a cup of coffee. You might as well just commit suicide.
Oh my goodness, that song I got sick of back then. I don't ever want to hear it again. But I know, speaking of music, somebody that you definitely want to hear, Nick, and that's Queen, and they are on tour with Adam Lambert. You've got to be excited about that.
I'm very well. I've followed their tour since they teamed up with Lambert, and if you remember early on, I was really against the whole thing. But I'll tell you what, dude, I don't know if you've watched any of their concerts on YouTube. They are just outstanding and do great tribute to Freddie. So yes, I will be at the Wachovia Center for that concert. There's no question about it. I am extremely excited because I was nervous I wouldn't ever get to see Brian May and Roger Taylor again because, they're getting older, and Brian May was battling depression again, so they canceled the rest of their tour. I'm glad to see it's back on, and their United States tours the Queen is more popular now than they've ever been.
Isn't that something? The legend has grown bigger and bigger and bigger with Freddie Mercury. And he was a legend when he was alive.
But not like this.
What do you think it is that has made that legend grow?
Oh, I think it's just, the voice is extraordinary, right? I think it starts there. But I also think Freddie was very tongue-in-cheek. He was campy, and he was flirting with that whole gay icon thing back in the 80s when it wasn't fashionable. Today, people find it kind of amusing, and first of all, they're not repulsed by it anymore. People, I think that the tolerance level is higher for gay people, but I think Freddie took himself not too seriously and really was tongue in cheek. So, like the mustache, for instance, has lived on in infamy. I think everybody knows what a Tom Selleck or Freddie Mercury mustache is. So, and I think that Freddie played himself as a character that was larger than life, but also self-indulgent, but not an inflated sense of self-importance. It was always kind of a little tongue-in-cheek and being funny. So I think the voice, of course, stands the test of time since day one, but I think now the voice and the whole character of that Freddie created for himself is really embraced. Plus, the music is just so timeless. I hear Don't Stop Me Now on the radio more now than I ever did. And when I say the radio, I mean Sirius.
Right.
And that song has become an American favorite for any time you're having a party. I mean, if you think about it, We Will Rock You, We Are the Champions, I Want It All, You're My Best Friend. These songs are on under pressure. They're on commercials constantly. So Queen has really become mainstream again. I think people look at their overall body of work now and are just floored by the fact of how many actual recognizable songs they had in this country, but hits worldwide.
What's interesting to me, Nick, is you had like George Michael in the 80s and you had Boy George in the 80s. And of course, we knew that they were gay even though they were in the closet, right? Everybody knew that. And they sold millions of albums, whereas Queen really struggled at the same time to sell records.
Here, but not globally.
Absolutely. Here in the States is what I'm saying. Here in the States.
I think that because Freddie stuck his nose up at that whole at that whole I'm going to hide who I am type thing. I mean, which is kind of a paradox because he also didn't admit he was gay until the day before he died. Everybody knew. But I don't really understand it, really. I think George Michael hid behind the closet really for a long time. Boy George, I never understood how Queen could get banned from MTV for dressing in drag in I Want to Break Free video, which was really a funny video. And then Boy George can go on MTV dressed in drag whenever he wants. Like, it just didn't make sense to me.
The only thing I could figure is at that point in time, Culture Club was selling a gazillion albums, right? And very popular. And Queen wasn't. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe
you know what I think it was too, Ty?
Boy George video.
I think they went from glam rock, hard, heavy rock and roll glam rock in the 70s to a more pop style. They always bragged no synthesizers, right? That was on the back of every single album. Well, that stopped around Another One Bites the Dust, and then they became quite synth-driven in the early 80s. And I think that really turned off their hard rock fans, their hardcore hard rock fans, who just turned their back and never really looked back until now. And then Adam Lambert has brought on a whole new generation of Queen fans. I mean, they're selling out arenas. In Europe, they're selling out 50,000 people.
Right. I've never been a Lambert fan, but I gotta tell you, he's impressed me with Queen and the fact that he can lead that talented group of musicians and follow in the footsteps of Freddie Mercury. You know how much I love Paul Rogers.
And do it well. Yeah.
You know how much
Paul Rogers did not do well with it.
No, he didn't. And he's one of the
part of the reason why Paul Rogers didn't do well with it was because Paul Rogers' catalog stands on its own 2 feet.
Right.
And when you went to see Queen and Paul Rogers did a fairly good job. I mean, they had to change the octaves and everything on all the songs because of the vocal range that Paul Rogers lacks compared to Freddie. But he did a good job with those renditions. But I know I saw them 3 times, and either 2 or 3 times. 3 times. 2 out of the 3 times I heard people grumbling on the way out of the arena. It was all Queen songs. Where was Bad Company? Where was The Firm?
Right.
You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I think in America, Paul Rogers is entrenched in that. And back to the Queen thing. Let's put it this way. The Bible Belt hated Queen. The Bible Belt.
Oh, sure.
So, and then on top of that, too, Queen stuck their nose up to the U.S. They stopped coming here. They said, we don't need you. We're going to concentrate on the rest of the world, which really, really pissed off like MTV and the record executives. But I think that was also because Freddie had already had AIDS and couldn't travel. And they didn't want to tell anybody.
That's part of it, Nick. Yeah.
Yeah, enough Queen talk here.
Of it. Yeah, let's do a Queen episode, especially this summer when the tour gets in gear.
I'd love to get, and maybe this is a good challenge for you, I know, to get Brian May and Roger Taylor, just so people who are listening to this podcast know, in America they're legends, but in globally these guys are like untouchable. So it would be extremely hard to get any one of these guys, Brian May or Roger Taylor. But if you could get Roger Taylor's son, that would be pretty awesome, because he's on tour with them as he does percussion with his dad.
Yeah,
that would be pretty awesome.
Yeah, let's get it done. Let's do it.
And with that, why don't we give out our Twitter handles?
I'm at Coog88.
I'm at CLNS_Nick, and it continues to be tricky.
It's at Beat, the letter N Eats. And Nick, we'd like to thank our guest today, GJ Echterncamp, with his new film Death Race 2050.
My good God.
And look for Malcolm McDowell as basically Donald Trump.
I know, right? It was great. And let's also throw thanks over to those keeping the lights on at Blue Apron. Remember, 3 free meals, free shipping. Support Beats and Eats. It would really, really help us. You know, I hear pods all the time, Ty, talking about ratings and reviews too. And we used to do it early on, and we haven't in a long time. So if you're listening to this podcast and you've missed us, or even if you haven't, being in the broadcast booth together, give us a rating and review on iTunes, and be honest. If there's something you don't like or you'd like us to change, give us 5 stars, but in the description area, tell us what you'd like us to change, and we will certainly enact that. Yeah. So anyway, Ty, I guess with that,
lounge is closed.
The virtual lounge is now closed. You can stay, you just can't stay here. For Beats and Eats, I'm your bartender, Scott Mitchell. Until next week, hey, stay cool.